Hi, I'm Richard Friedman, and welcome to my introduction to my latest book here, Richard's 2025 book of best political cartoons. And basically, I know it's a little tardy, 2025, but I've been working so hard on my videos that I really, till now, hadn't had the time to put this book together. And here it is, and I just looked through it myself, and I said, in many ways, it's more thought-provoking looking at the book now, going back to 2025, than it was when I actually wrote it then. So I felt justified in telling you about my book. And here it is, starting with the cover of it here, and it goes like this. Here is a cabinet meeting with here Secretary of State Marco Rubio. There's President Donald Trump, and there is Secretary, quote, War, Pete Hegseth. And here, this was the line of, you see President Trump appearing to doze off at the cabinet meeting, and as Secretary Rubio goes about praising him, saying, this war started, and this speaking of the Ukraine, of the war in Ukraine, this war started and never would have happened if you had been president. But this war is going on, and the president is the only leader in the world who can help end it. So he's talking, Marco Rubio here, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor here, is telling President Trump that he, if he had been president, there never would have been a Ukraine war, and now he's the only one who can end it. And then I have here Russian President Vladimir Putin here, and saying here, Trump is the only leader who can help us end this war in his sleep. And there is Stalin, a great a leader of the Soviet Union, who put together the Soviet Union after World War II, and greatly helped defeat the Nazis. And he drove them out of Stalingrad and out of Russia. And he's giving thumbs up to Putin, and that's the interaction there. Now, the first pages of the book, I'll give you the first. This is here, the first number. Here, I drew Abraham Lincoln here, and a house divided against itself cannot stand. A part of the introduction here. And I wrote at the bottom of it, therefore, at the center of this book is a hope. Its humor will offer America a semblance of unity. So if we can laugh together, we can perhaps join together a little bit better than we've been doing here. And here it is here, that the theme of my book was that the humor could help bring us together. And I wrote that in the conclusion. This was Lincoln's address. At the time here, he was a future hadn't been elected yet, president, and he made this speech here. A house divided cannot stand speech from Lincoln. I put that at the front of the book. And then we have here, the next page is here. I came up with here, let me get this good here. This is the gold coin, the Trump's dream, the Trump Bondi retribution gold coin. Now, Bondi has been dismissed from the organization, from the administration, and but still in all, it rings the retribution that she's brought here, and all the dismissals of people in the Justice Department, and the way she was conducted herself during the interviews about different various things. I'm not here to get into here. I just want to show you the book. So I thought, if you think about that, it's still relevant here. The gold coin, the Trump Bondi gold coin, retribution gold coin. Okay, she certainly succeeded. Well, I don't know if she succeeded, but she certainly did stir up a lot of things with that retribution. Okay, that a lot of cases have been dismissed, but took people through a lot of hassles with that. Now here is Mike Waltz. Here is the man who connected. What he did, he was dismissed because he connected the call to this editor of the Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, and he was the one who pushed the button, and connected it, and he got connected to a secret plans regarding then I think it was the Houthis to attack the Houthis who are making trouble with shipping around the bend going into the Red Sea. Now we have that, and the Houthis it still could happen again, God forbid, that if Iran gives the go-ahead to them, then that's what everybody's worried about now. So here this was President Trump interacting with Mike Walls, and he's saying to him, look, Mike, I don't care whether you used a Signal or Sigmund app. You sent that total sleazebag Goldberg an invitation to join my top administration's officials in an attack planning chat. Like it was blank blank wedding. You gotta go, but you will be my nominee for UN ambassador. Stay off your cell phone, and you can do all the stupid SHI blank you want then, okay? And he goes, Walls goes here, and he goes like this. Thank you, Mr. President. I will convey your strong efforts for peace and prosperity to the entire world. Okay, all right. See. And here's another sample cartoon. Here's President Trump getting on to his helicopter here. And he's saying here, open Alcatraz. The idea was to open Alcatraz. Way back there, they were talking to opening Alcatraz. You know, we remember the Birdman at Alcatraz with Burt Lancaster, that movie. Well, that was a prison then. Open Alcatraz is just an idea I had, and I guess it's because of so many of these radicalized judges. They want to have trials for every single person who came in illegal. That would mean millions of trials. So that was the idea of opening Alcatraz. Okay, and here is Justice Sotomayor, who's like the conscience of the Supreme Court in a way. She's the big conscience of the Supreme Court, and I have her saying here, she's thinking about retiring in her own mind, and she says, she's not retiring, but here's a thought she might have had. I am going back to the Bronx. She's from the Bronx, like I am, where I can get better use out of this gavel if someone breaks into my car. Okay, and they're the Supreme Court justices that I drew. I don't want to go into all this, but you could look up. You could go to Richard's Books of Political Cartoons.com, and there you can order my book. There's a link to Amazon, and that's Richards with no apostrophe S, just Richards, like a lot of Richards, and Richard's Books of Political Cartoons.com, and you could just click on to Amazon, and you'll see all these previews that you could read of that are there. Even if you don't buy the book, you could still preview in detail these sample cartoons that I'm showing you now. So there it is. And then you have here, okay, the tax increase here. This was put up on Truth Social. The problem with even a tiny tax increase for the rich, which I and all others would great increase for the rich, which I graciously accept in order to help the lower and middle income workers, is that radical left Democrat lunatics would go around screaming, "Read my lips." That goes back to George H.W. Bush, who said, "Read my lips," and no more taxes, and he raised taxes. So that was that one. And then here with the Greenland, and we have the Greenland thing here, where President Trump is saying, we'll have a song that I wrote. We'll have Canada, Panama Canal, and Greenland too. We'll have Canada, the Panama, Greenland. Well, anyway, you can read it if you go to my website again. And that I'll repeat is Richard's Books of Political Cartoons.com. No apostrophe S on the Richards. Okay, no spaces. Okay, and here is another one that's in the sample. Yeah. This is in Ukraine, a man that we've cut off our weapons supply to them. So the attention, all residents. This is Ukraine Missile Defense System alert. Please evacuate building immediately. So this substitutes for the American aid that we were given, that we had been given. So they put a man on the roof with his binoculars checking out an incoming missile to let the people in the building know that was a missile coming. That was another sample. Okay, and basically, here's Pete Hegseth. Here, the statue of Pete Hegseth, the retribution statue of Pete Hegseth. Trump's vision of a future retribution statue of Pete Hegseth for the people who objected against him, Hegseth Pentagon Building. So he's going to be, so that's going to be the name here, the Hegseth Pentagon Building, a statue of Pete Hegseth here holding his cell phone in front of the Pentagon. That would be the retribution, you know. Okay, and then here, let's see. Oh, this is the final one here. Is now the Pope Leo had never mentioned President Trump's name, but he criticized the principles of the Iran war. The principally he criticized it. He didn't even mention President Donald Trump, but it's pretty evident what he was referring to the war. And then here's President Trump as the Pope. Here he said this. President Donald Trump, following the president sharing an AI. President Trump shared an AI-generated photo of himself dressed as the Pope, just days after telling reporters that he'd like to be Pope. So here's Pope Donald Trump. Pope Donald Trump. And here he goes, that I drew here. And he goes, when I win my third term as President of the United States, Rome will have the greatest victory parade since the Emperor Nero, who also reduced taxes. Yeah, I looked that up. Nero reduced taxes in Rome. Okay? And, before he burned it down to build up an even bigger city. Okay, folks, and played his fiddle. All right, folks, I want to thank you for watching my preview of my book here. Here it is again. Richard's 2025 book of best political cartoons, available on Amazon. And there's a link at my website, richardsbooksofpoliticalcartoons.com. No spaces and no apostrophe S, just Richards. And I want to thank you very much for watching my video on this book. Have a great day. Hang in there. And God bless you. And hang in there through all of this. And I'll see you next time. Bye.